Hello, Mark Surgeon again, and now we have two morph channels. What to do next? Of course, you can create more and more morphs, but before jumping on it, uh, let me show the couple simple ways to manipulate these morphs. Now, first of all, you can use this 100 value. This is a percentage. If you have multiple models, but you want to work only with one morphs, and you want to create a quick test, for example, about a meeting to discuss facial expressions or anything. You can use this one for mechanical rigs. So the easiest way, if you're just hitting on a morpher and pin the stack. What does that mean? Whenever you can even select multiple models. You can move them as you wish. But the modifier stack is pinned, so you have this particular morpher selected and available. Now this might be a good help for very light animation works or modeling works. What else? The next level, the next step is if you are creating a slider, a manipulator. Now to do that, you definitely need a slider and you definitely need a morpher. So before we are jumping in, we have to create the sliders. So one for the one side and one for the other side. Now to do that, going in a create panel, and in the helpers we have manipulators, and within that there's slider. Now slider is a 2D element, so it is tied to the screen. So when you are starting creating it, be sure that it will be visible, so it won't be covered. Now what I'm talking about, if you have a weird scene aspect ratio, there's a chance that as you drag, resize, change the layout, you just overlap your modifier, your slider. Now when the slider is created, right now we are in select and move mode. We are not in a manipulation mode. This select and move mode is actually nothing else, just selecting the slider. We cannot change the value or anything like that. This is just using it as an object, using it as an element. So if you want to change the values, you have to select and manipulate, switch here, select and manipulate, and now you will be able to click on this tiny triangle, select it and move it away. You can also resize your slider, and also you can close it up if you wish. If you click in here, you can close it up, open it up. Okay, if you have multiple sliders, it may become handy. Now I'm leaving this manipulation mode, selecting the slider because I want to affect the object itself. So that will be labeled smile R. The value is going from 0 to 100. That's okay because in the morpher we have 0 to 100. There's a position, so if you want to change the position, this is a screen relative position. This is where you can do it. Now this is 130. That's pretty much fine, so why not? We don't have to care much about that. Snap. Now snap value, it's pretty cool that right now it's almost analog, but if you can if you want to remember your values, for example, you want to remember, oh yeah, I have 5%, 20%, 25. Sometimes it's better if you add a little bit larger than that one. What does it make? If you go back to select and manipulate and start moving, this guy now moves in 5-step incrementals. Now, okay, this is just quite fine. What we'll do next, we need another one, so create slider, place it here, and going back, that will be smile left, and that will be 130, and of course it's 5. So super nice. Okay, and if you want, you can change you can copy these values, you can align them that way, but this is just fine. Now to move up next, we have to connect this guy with this one. Now how to do this? So I'm backing to normal, select and move. So manipulation is turned off. Now I can select the item, and I just want to make sure that it is 0. It is set to 0. Now I'm going back to the head and selecting Morpher, and I want to make sure as well here that I have 0 because I want to make this happening evenly. Okay, 0 here, 0 here. Now selecting the slider and going up in the animation, there's Control 5, that's the hotkey, but this time we will use the wire parameters and wire parameters. As you see, Control 5 is the hotkey, and it will open up something. First, be sure you are selecting the slider first. Then you are going to the animation menu. Then you're calling this wire parameters, and what we are looking for is a value of the slider. We don't care where the slider is. So this is the reason why we are having the object as the manipulator. Now as you see, we have a minimal value and maximal value. In this case, we want in general the value. So if it's 0, if it's 5, if it's 100, let us know. So that will be the first value. Now it creates this kind of a boundary, it's a lash, this elastic band. So the first part of the equation is ready. Now we know we are watching the slider changes, but what it has to affect the head, and not just the head, because we have to find the morpher channel that we are referring for. So in modified object again, and morpher, and we have two morph targets, and the first is smile R, and because the original slider was smile R slider, I will click on it, and now I have this dialog popping in. Now this pop-up is actually nothing else, just what we just did here visually. Now it represents with text. So we have this slider manipulator 001. That's actually the object name. As you see, that's object name, it's not the label name. So if you're not as sloppy as me, you already renamed it. And what I do is value is in some kind of a connection with this smile R target. Now let me say, okay, I want a two-way connection. So if I change one thing, the other will be changed as well. So I will make it easy. Click on two-way. It's not ready yet. We have to connect them, and when you're connecting them, it will both of them will highlight in green. Now if you are using this one direction from this to the other channel, that represents you will have a input value that will be green because you can adjust it, and you have a red value that will be adjusted, so you cannot change the morpher anymore in the wireframe. You can of course delete this connection, but right now it's a two-way connection, so you can change it here, change it there, and I don't have to update because we already established the connection. And here we go, I will close it. Voila. Now because I want to change the slider value here, I have to go up here again, don't forget, select and manipulate, and now I will be able to select the guy and start moving the slider. Okay, so technically that's it. And when you are animating, the slider will be animated instead of the morpher, so it is a little bit easier to deal with only with one value. That means yes, 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 no, 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 then that's it. So it's easier to deal with. Just quickly create the other one. So simple select smile to smile right, and Control 5, object slider manipulator value will drive a modified object morpher and target smile, and that will be value here will drive this guy. So I'll make a double connection, hit on connect, and that will be closed. So now we go slider manipulator, and I will change this value. Okay, here we go, change the other side, Okay, now everybody is smiling and we are so happy. Okay, now we have the first slider that's created, and this is just super nice. If you want to add more details, you can just drag it out. Right now it's not really makes a difference because we have these snap values, but if you don't have the snap values, the longer the scale you have here, the longer this line, the more tiny changes you can do. Okay, so keep that in mind, and you can also resize them anytime. Now this is about the initial controls of a morpher, so you can control a morpher directly right at the controlling place, or you can control it with sliders and manipulators. Alright, just one addition about the soft selection that we used at the mouth. So what happens if you want to open up the mouth? Just let me create a quick example. So if you want to open it, don't forget the soft selection has a kind of interesting option that becomes very handy when you are dealing with something like an eye or something like a mouth. Now that is nothing else, just when the soft selection is turned on, here we go, you have edge distance limitation, and edge distance is actually will restrict the fall off. Right now you have one point selected, and everything from that point within that 3.8 centimeter radius will be affected. But when you have edge distance turned on, now only the next edge will be affected. If I'm increasing it, only the second edge, so to here, to this direction, and everywhere. Now the big trick is usually it drives away the selection, so I like to use it at a relatively high level, because as you see, even if I'm using 100, it still does not affect the bottom lip. But if I'm just turn it off, instantly it will affect. So usually the best idea, if you're using an edge distance, turning it off 90%, not true here in the mouth corner, but 90% it is okay if you're using it. And just fall off is relatively easy to adjust on the daemon, so you don't have to deal it. If this edge distance value is somewhere above 20, then you have really a lot of freedom to work with the soft selection just by using the fall off. Okay, so here we go. That's it. So kind of a protrusion. Why not rotating it? Okay, that's fun. Alright, so next time I will show a couple examples of morphs, and then we will start to build up a little bit more interesting controllers. Okay, so see you next time.